SLs, I really thought I should, showcase the teaching of break-even analysis to you, because I know that if you are actually struggling with this topic, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Dan Electro, the question that's there, I think in 24.02, and I'll take you through how to actually draw a break-even graph for Dan Electro question. It's about cameras, I think, but you can take this knowledge to just about any break-even question, okay? So for any break-even question, you got to have certain ingredients. Just like how when you bake a cake, you would need a few ingredients. So like that, you would need for break-even point calculation, you need these vital ingredients, and that's total fixed cost, the variable cost per unit, selling price per unit, and the number of units sold. For any question, you've got to have this information for you to be able to do the break-even graph, okay? So for Dan Electro, that's the question that we're looking at. I think it's in 24.02. So the total fixed costs were coming to $30,000, if I'm remembering it correctly. The variable cost unit was $200, I think. That was $250. All this is given to you in the question. You just have to write this down like that. And there were 700 cameras, okay? So with this information that's given, now you're ready to draw the break-even graph. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you how to draw the graph step by step. And you just follow that for any question, okay? So that's the heading. We're going to write break-even graph for Dan Electro. So we're going to draw the x-axis and the y-axis. X-axis y. Always on x-axis you show the units. So in this case they're cameras. And on y-axis you show costs and revenues, which will be in dollars. Okay, that's in units and that's in dollars. So in this question there are 700 cameras. So I'm just going to plot 700 there. We have to be accurate. We've got to be using a ruler and a pencil. In exams you'll be provided with a graph paper. So all you have to do is take a ruler and pencil, so you can make modifications very easy having a pencil, unlike a pen, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to end my graph only at 700 cameras because I don't want anything beyond that. I'll tell you later for a reason, okay? So that's 100, 200, 300, 400, 600, and that's my 700 cameras. I'm going to end my graph at that. I don't want to extend beyond this. Now, how do I know what to take on the y-axis? So I need to do a bit of a maths here. I need some calculations to be done. So for any break-even graph, the way you find out the maximum point on y-axis is by simply multiplying the number of units times selling price per unit. For any question, this is what tells you what y-axis has to be at its maximum point. So number of units here are 700 cameras. Selling price per unit is $250. So I think it is 175,000. Okay, so $175,000. That's what I know as the maximum point on the y-axis. Okay. So how do I take that? Well, I'm going to take 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175. Of course, you're going to use the ruler. I'm just doing a freehand here. I hope that I'll be accurate. So that's 25. So instead of writing so many zeros there, I want to save time in exam. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say probably in thousands of dollars. Okay, so I'm just going to write 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, and 175. I'm not going to bother filling up because it's not really needed. Okay, so this is the axis that you mark of x and y for this question. So the first thing that I'm going to plot on the graph is the total fixed cost line, always. So that's the habit, okay? So make sure that you do that as well. The TFC line is always a parallel line to the x-axis. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a parallel line to the x-axis at exactly $30,000, which is parallel to the x-axis. That's TFC. I already know what the total revenue is because I found out by multiplying number of units times selling price per unit. So I got that as $175,000. So against 700, that's the reason why I said you got to stop at 700 units and not extend beyond that, because there's no point. You just cap your graph to this maximum level, okay? So at 175 against 700, I hope that I'll be accurate, I'm going to draw a line from 0 and connect it, okay? So that's my TR. So every time your TR line should look like this. Now TC, how do I find out TC? I'm going to do the maths here. TC is nothing but TFC plus TVC. Total fixed cost plus total variable cost. The total fixed cost for this question is $30,000. Total variable cost is, well, $200 times 700 units. So that gives me $140,000 plus 30, $170,000. All right. So at 170, I hope that I'll be accurate. I plot. And this time around, I'm going to draw from 30. Okay, that's my TC. It's not a bit accurate. I can see the reflection there. But when you use a ruler, it will automatically intersect. I'll tell you the next one. So this is your TC line. It starts from $30,000. So that this is your total fixed cost plus that's your total variable cost. The two put together is your TC. Okay, so that's why it has to be drawn from TFC there. Okay, not from 0 but TFC. So naturally, the two will intersect at the break-even point, which is 600 cameras. So that's the break-even point. The point where TR and TC intersect, that's the break-even point. And you want to double check that with the formula, you could do that because it has to be the same. So what's the formula? The formula is break-even point equals total fixed cost over selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. So I'm going to substitute $30,000 divided by 250 minus 200, which is nothing but 600 units, which is exactly what is shown by the graph. So the graph numbers will never tell a lie. It's always is going to speak the truth, okay? So that's why students love this question in exams, because you cannot go wrong. You can double check and be so confident that you've got it correctly. Now just a few more things before I disconnect. Margin of safety, you need to know that because seldom you would see questions not asking this, okay? It always comes as a package. You have break even, you've got margin of safety asked as well. Now margin of safety is nothing but all the units sold minus the break-even point, which is, in this case, so the margin of safety is 700 cameras minus 600, which is 100, right? So this is the margin of safety. See this area between? This area is margin of safety. So this is the profit. Very tiny profits indeed, isn't it? So another last point is, to the left of this break-even point, what you see is, this is the loss. Why is it a loss? Simply because TC line is on top and TR line is down. So to the left of the break-even point, the costs are more than the sales revenue. Therefore, it is a loss. At break-even point, TR is exactly equal to TC. It's breaking even. There's a no loss, no profit situation. But to the right of the break-even point, what you see is profits, because in this scenario, TR is greater than TC. And that's what every business would like to see. They want to see more of this angle being wider. So the next question is, how can I increase my profits from this tiny angle to a wider angle? So I want to increase this angle because that's what will determine how much profits I've made or I can make. So one way of doing that is by perhaps increasing your selling price from $250 to maybe $300. Another way would be perhaps you sell more units, maybe 800 times 250. So either way you do, you're going to push your TR line up like that. And then what happens to the break-even point is interesting because you will be intersecting the total cost line at this point to see you have a wider profit. From this tiny bit, you've made a huge profit there. There's one more way that you can increase your profits, and that's by lowering your costs. So what could happen is, instead of spending maybe $200 on variable cost, you only spend $100. So your TC line will come down. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to use a dotted line, like that. Either way you do, the break-even point now will be here. You have a wider profit. You see, from this little one, you have such a huge profit, and this time you have this. So it's very important to know the implications of what happens to the break-even point, okay, if you were to alter the selling price or the cost. So it depends how the questions get asked, but generically speaking, this is what you need to know. You need to be given the basic 4 items for you to be able to do the break-even graph. Draw X and Y axis. Always end your X axis at the maximum units that's there in the question. So over here, for Dan Electro, the question said, this is what they make and sell. 700 cameras. So I'm not going to extend beyond that. I'm just capping it to 700. The first line to draw is TFC, not to mention that y-axis, the maximum point that you know what to plot, will always be your revenue. You can't sell more than you incur the costs, right? I mean, that's the aim. You want to sell more than what you incurred as a cost. So the TR line has to be the maximum point for the y-axis, always for all questions. The first line is TFC, then you've got your TR coming from 0, and TC is a bit of a calculation. That's where you could go wrong. But then remember, total cost is the sum of total fixed cost and total variable cost. So from the fixed cost here, you draw a line all the way to where the total cost is, against 700 units. And you'll see a natural intersection happening at the point where TR and TC meet, and that's the break-even point, which should exactly be the same as what your formula states. Okay, so the formula is very important. You won't be given this in your formula sheet in exams, but you have to memorize this formula, but you do get given a graph. Okay, and margin of safety is simply actual units sold minus break-even units, which is 700 minus 600, 100 in this case. And the way to increase profits, you can actually play with your own graphs. Try altering the TR line by pushing it up, bring the total cost line down, and you'll see what a difference it makes to your profits. Okay, so any business, their interest is to reach the break-even point really quickly. This is not a nice situation where Dan has to sell 600 cameras to break even. Now that's really not what a business person would like in real world. They would like to achieve it really quickly, perhaps at 400 or 500. And how can that happen? When you look at increasing the selling price, or you produce more and sell more, or you lower your costs that you incur in terms of variable costs. But there's a catch to it. The downside of doing that is you're driving away customers by increasing selling price. If you're compromising on quality by reducing your variable cost, you might not be expecting loyal customers to come back and buy your product. So the best way would be perhaps to just sell more, okay? So you'll always have to analyze and see what actually comes out as your recommendation, okay? So I hope that this video has helped you. If you do have any questions, get back to me, please. We can still Skype or perhaps have a Google Hangout session. But this is a very important topic. Thank you.